Hello, Drunkduckers. I'm Ozomotion, and with me are Tant Serene and Baines.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello. Oh my god, the audio is so much worse than what we got on Zoom, isn't it?
Is it? I don't know.
All right, people. So this week we're talking about dialogue. Dialogue and the job that it does in comics. But before we get into that, theme song. That was our theme song. Now we're going to introduce the featured comic. Quackcast gave us a feature this week, which means it's my turn next week. But so this week she gave us Orcs Company. She's going to tell us about Orcs Company now.
Hello, this is Quackcast, and the feature I've selected for this week is Orcs Company by Orcs Company, and it is rated M for mature. It is a lucky first day at a new workplace for Sasha Pinewood, who wakes up next to an Anafe body pillow. Strapped for cash, Sasha turns down a job offered by a feeble elderly person on the walk to work. Sasha has been selected to be the Chosen One's co-adjutor, a servant of chaos. Sir Munch, a flirty orc paladin, shows up at Sasha's door, responding to a roommate wanted sign posted minutes after Sasha Pinewood throws longtime mooching roommate Brody out of the apartment. Sir Munch was previously hired by an adventuring company to handle an incognito dragon leading an underground crime syndicate. The comics are formatted in lengthy, vertical, scrolling pages. The entire comic is in full, vibrant color. Order a hot and spiced mocha with 6 extra shots of espresso and read Orcs Company by Orcs Company, rated M.
And that was Quiet talking about Orcs Company. Alright, so now Gomels has a featured theme. And his featured theme this week was to stiletto, so I'll tell you about that now.
The coolest of the cool. Step into the warm, cozy underground lounge and sip an espresso martini. The bass thrums a tune of dark wood. The piano does the tango. The guitar floats on a sunny, serene pool, and percussion sneaks into the corner to be alone and snuggle. Take it away, Gummers, with your theme to Stiletto.
That was Don Wallace with Stiletto, which is a comic by Vino Mas, and it's rated T for Titanic, treacherous, truncated. I don't know. Any other thing you can start with T? Or rated T for teen? You make up your mind. You have a look at that fantastic comic by this genius Vino Mas. Okay, so now we're going to talk about dialogue. Dialogue. Well, that's what happens when a log lands on your head. You die. That's why it's called that. So,
Oh my god!
Free or dialogue?
One thing we should mention is, don't use bad puns in your dialogue.
Dialogue. Well, I suppose log means logy communication in some way, doesn't it? Because you have monologues and duologues. Well, not duologues, another way of saying dialogue. But well, mainly monologue is the other term. I don't know if there are any others. And dia meaning two. So, but basically, dialogue is like conversations between two or more characters. That's what it really means. And in terms of this Quackcast, we're talking about like the work that dialogue can do in a comic. Because dialogue does very different jobs in other media, like in the written word. Well, comics are the written word, but in like prose, where it's just written and there are no images, dialogue has to do a lot more work. Well, it doesn't have to, but it can do a lot more work.
No, I would argue that it has to.
I mean, you could have a lot of description in a prose, but it's better to express it through dialogue, really, generally, isn't it? So,
Yeah, absolutely.
works better. But yeah, so prose handles it differently. Then we have the like full motion media, like comics. No, not comics. Duh. Yeah, like TV shows, movies, whatever. Games, I would count in that. They're another visual media, valid visual media, just as much as anything else. And so dialogue functions in a different way in those kind of things. Similar to comics, because those, like comics, are a more visual media, but they're time-based visual media, which is different from comics, because comics aren't like as much of a time-based visual media. So when you're looking at a comic, you can reread it, you can like stay on the page for as long as you want. In something that's full motion, that moment is gone. I mean, you can rewind it, but that's not how you consume that media. You watch it as it goes, and that moment's done. So that dialogue has to work within that moment. So that's a very kind of specific difference to a comic. So you don't when you're reading a comic, you can just like read it like a movie, but most people don't, because you can go back or forward and stuff like that. So the dialogue can carry a lot more weight than it does in a TV show or a movie or something like that, where it's sort of just racing on. Can you guys agree with that? Or am I just speaking out of my arse here?
That's a good point. You're dialoguing out of you.
I'm having a dialogue with myself.
No, I think that's good. I love that. I think that you can do it that way, where the dialogue is really rich and needs more attention. You can have artwork working along with it. You can take as much time as you want to soak it in. Yeah, that's really neat. And the upside.
Yeah, that's a significant difference between this, because all media handles it in slightly different ways. So even a play is very much the same as like a movie or whatever, because that's still a visual medium. Things you can go and read the play, and give it a lot more weight then, but it's just zoomed off. But then again, a play is different again in that more weight has to be taken by the dialogue versus the visual stuff, because you can't really do that much visual stuff in a play versus a TV show or a movie or a game. So, yeah, so plays leans more towards prose, doesn't it, really? So it's interesting to see the differences. But comics are what we're talking about. So in comics, the visual stuff and the writing is, I don't know, maybe it's more equal parts. I'm not sure.
I don't know. I think I've heard people say that it's the artwork counts more, somewhat more, to whatever degree than the text.
I mean, to a degree, and it depends on the kind of comic as well, because some comics are more like picture books than actual comics, and some are hugely dialogue heavy, like Tintin.
Especially web comics.
I'm sorry, go on.
You also see plenty of, like, especially web comics, where it's almost copy pasted, or it's actually copy pasted images, and then it's obviously more about the text. And these would be sort of talky comics, whether they're comedies or otherwise.
And those,
where the text counts more.
Those can have a harder time working. And personally, from all the comics that I've read, and I've read so many webcomics, the ones that don't weigh so heavily on the text bubbles are the ones that work a bit better. Because obviously,
I think that's probably the norm.
Yeah. Obviously, you're not looking to read a book when you're reading a comic. There's an expectation there in the reader. You don't really want to go for a picture book. You want something.
This is where I quietly withdraw from this discussion. I have a lot of battles.
Say in your work, Tance, like, Without Moonlight, especially with Verdant, the artwork is incredible. And that does so much work.
Oh, it is a ton of work. I will say that.
I mean, it's a lot of work, but it does a lot of work too. Like, for the reader, it does a lot of work to depict the story,
I always feel that my characters, my dialogue is generally on the wordy side, and I cannot deny that. I do try to keep it at a minimum at this point. Like when I started Without Moonlight, a lot of it was very wordy, especially like the first couple of chapters. I had not a wall of text, but it was like a small paragraph where the characters were talking, and I tried to limit that to Basil, who is a lawyer and generally is trained to be wordy. But still, I want to say that I kept it towards the end of Without Moonlight, but not really enough. And I don't know if even in the second version, there has to be some wordiness that I cannot avoid. Or perhaps I am too spoiled and I will not avoid it anyway.
You're thinking about it wrong there, because, you're thinking that it's wordy, but it's really not. Like when I talk about, when Baines and I were talking about things that are dialogue heavy, we were talking about stuff that just has the image. It really means nothing, because the text is all it is. It's mainly just like 3 panels or 2 panels of stuff, and the text is everything. So in Without Moonlight, it really defines those characters. It really helps tell the story. It's needed. So you don't... I've never looked at Without Moonlight and thought, oh my God, there's too much text here. Like, it just works.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much.
And in some comics, like, say Tintin is a good example of a comic where you've got a lot of text, but it's not a picture book. Like, it fits.
No, it didn't.
Yeah.
I'm really happy that you mentioned that, because Tintin is one of my favorite series, like comic books, like series of comic books, except for the first couple of unfortunate ones. Everything else is really spot on and polished in terms of dialogue. I mean, and speaking of, even though it is very wordy, exactly as you said, the art complements this wordiness, and it's like you hear the characters talk, although it is so wordy. They talk a lot, especially in the dialogue between the captain and Tenten. That's fantastic, because it's one of the few comics, in my opinion, that really conveys irony and sarcasm really well, thanks to the art and how these very simple-looking cartoons emote. At least in my opinion, I would highly recommend it. And one of the best.
I love the visual style. Never read it.
I would like, if you want to see, I think, a masterpiece in dialogue and how things can be very comedic in very subtle ways, but it makes you laugh. I would highly suggest the Castafiore Emerald, which is one of his latest stories, and it is basically a story that is it's not an adventure, but it is an adventure. Exactly. It all takes place in their house, which is like this giant mansion that the captain has inherited. And all of the shenanigans are nothing burgers, in the sense that it starts looking like it might be a story with nefarious stuff. It turns out it isn't every single time, but the way it is super comedic, very funny, in that very European way. And it has like excellent dialogue. Every character is peak there. So I would highly recommend that book as a plunge into Hergé's style in general.
Ah, yes. Hergé.
And what's the title again? That was a tough one. I couldn't quite catch it.
The Castafiore Emerald. I'm going to just write it out.
Is that one where it has something to do with a model, a model ship? Or am I wrong?
No, that's the Secret of the Unicorn.
Oh, you're right. I forgot.
The Castafiore Emerald is really about the opera singer Castafiore, Bianca Castafiore, who is like, neither of the two characters like opera, so they find her obnoxious in general. She's a diva, and all that, but she has helped them a lot in their adventures while being a diva. So she basically invites herself to Captain's gigantic mansion for a vacation, and things happen from there.
She's
so
Nice.
does she have a crush on Captain Haddock?
she does a little bit, at least, but I think that it's not a real crush. It's just that she is fond of him, and she's more of a friend to them both. I don't think that she actually has any romantic feelings towards either of them. But the captain is more in her age cohort, like they are close in age. So she pivots towards him a lot more. Like Tintin is quite younger than either of them. So she generally, so there is this amazing sequence in that book where she basically causes the poor captain to go through a series of injuries, and she keeps trying to help him and causes him to get into more slapstick disasters because he is accident prone and stuff. And it is perfect, like highly recommended and excellent. The dialogue carries the art, and the art carries the dialogue. It's a very reciprocal in this.
Yeah, these things work together well. So,
Yeah.
as a band, you were talking about ideas that dialogue can carry, like, you know, what a character wants and needs and all that kind of stuff. Have you had trouble with any of that? Like you were saying, you were worried that your work couldn't do it or didn't do it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I like dialogue. I generally want to say that I consider dialogue being one of my strong suits when I write about characters, and
Yeah.
I again want to say, and I'm trying to let myself be assertive a little bit. That I do think that I can capture the voice of each character well enough, but especially when it comes to needing to convey background information, I always agonize that I am either info dumping or not not getting across enough information, like striking that sweet spot where the dialogue indirectly gives you the information you need to know, or when you just absolutely need to just tell the audience certain things that you cannot show in the art. That is a balance that always stresses me out a little bit, especially like now with Verdun, that I need to basically get across all the world building because it's not the real world. Without Moonlight had that going for it because it was the real world, even though I still needed to get across certain things that were very specific to Greece only, like the dudes with the hoods on, that apparently were a thing only in Greece for some reason. So yeah, I could not assume that anyone would know that this is a traitor that is pointing fingers for people to be instantly executed and hiding his identity that way. So how to convey this without having, one of the characters while they're in distress saying, as you probably know, this is a character that this guy is wearing the hood because he doesn't want us to know who it is that is sending us to die,
Don't you have to do that a lot in fantasy anyway?
Yeah, you do.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Because, I mean, even sci-fi, but yeah. Like in fantasy, you often have, these made-up, invented rules that are only specific to your universe. No one's knowing, how magic works or the history of kingdoms and stuff like that. So you have to have that, like, as you already know, you have to have those kind of explanations.
Yeah. I do have like a page in Bender that I'm very proud about in terms of, the dialogue getting across certain, like some information without it being shoehorned in, like characters would not talk about their religion, like they know their religion, they even know where their differences are. Like as an Orthodox, I wouldn't go to a Catholic and say, oh, our difference lies in this article of the dogma, we know, we know where our differences are. So there is this one page in Burton where Ethan is talking to Jan, and they represent, the two different versions of that same dogma that they have. and differences in how they worship. And so Gia knows that the despotate has these very rigid times of prayer that they have to have in the morning and at noon and so on. And so when Ethan is not actually going through with that prayer, like the time is about to pass, he says, like, aren't you going to do your prayer? Like, which is, the prayer is to pay, to give praises. That's how they say it. So, and then Ethan replies, I can't, because you have to have a clear heart to do it. So I feel very proud in the sense that at least I hope that I convey that one type of praying system is on a schedule, the other isn't. And the prayer has certain prerequisites according to the dogma that you have to follow. And it is done through a dialogue that would plausibly happen between these two people without them telling each other things that they already know.
Yeah.
So that's my one little point of pride
Yeah,
so far. So
It's yeah.
nice.
It's clever, but yeah, those things
It's
are
a lot.
tricky.
Yeah.
Yes,
It's a lot to try to get across. It's a ton, and
Mm.
yeah, some repetition maybe is needed. You know.
yeah. Actually, I mean, those are the kind of things that are hard to depict with the artwork. Almost. I mean, if you were going to depict that with the artwork, it would take so long to do that it's counterproductive. See.
Oh yeah. I don't even know how you would do that. Yeah, that would be very hard.
Yeah, like you're depicting, the actual difference in worship and all that kind of stuff. So that would be pointless. So you don't want to do that.
it would be like you would need basically an info dump, I guess. Like, I am going to show him and the witches praying at some point, but it's going to be inherent to another point in the plot. It's not going to be, and this is how they pray, So yeah, I am like, because they do have like very different ways of how they approach worship. So yeah, but I have to be patient and let it happen.
Yeah.
What was that?
I said, well, I agree with you. Yeah, like it's hard to be patient sometimes. And the stuff gets sort of seeded in there gradually, so readers can remember it and understand it and all that.
Yeah, you work up to it. You build it brick by brick.
Just gonna say, since they're traveling together, totally, and since they're traveling together, you can have a scene where someone's praying and the witch questions it or something. Like, it depends exactly what you want to get across. Yeah.
True.
Yeah.
I mean,
and that, okay, go on, please.
I was going to bring up Kaiju Valentine and say with those characters, a lot is expressed through the artwork. A lot of complicated stuff Baines expresses through the artwork. The fact that there is this weird parallel world where you have these giants and you have these little people, and how those two things function together. That's not all done in text the way I would do it. Well, not the way I do it, but the way a lot of people might do it. It's all done with the artwork and the text working together in a very, very clever synthesis to show these complicated sci-fi concepts, and it's done effortlessly. And the character development is done effortlessly, just with minimal text, minimal dialogue, and the characters' actions showing what they're doing. So it's not actually them saying what they're doing, or like turning about face or changing their opinions or whatever, all in text. They're actually by their actions that Baines is depicting. That explains it. So the art and the dialogue are working together to produce the story so well. So,
I mean, well, thank you very much. You have to sneak that stuff in there, And I do have looming ahead somewhere some kind of scene where we might have to explain more about the relationship between the normal-sized small people world and the giant world and how that all works. I'm dreading it, so I like this. I like hearing what you guys are saying to sort of kind of plan for that upcoming scene. Where I mean, my thing, I guess, is just tell the readers enough and myself enough so that it's not a lingering question. So it's like, well, how does this, like, what? How does this work? So I hope to address that stuff before those kind of questions get in the way. And the other thing is to, you have it's like a couple. He's normal size, she's a giant. So hopefully people are invested in that relationship. And so how things reflect on that is what really matters. So yeah.
I also think.
I'm done. Yeah, sorry.
No, go on. Finish it.
No, I'm good.
Finish it.
Yeah. No,
yeah, I was just going to say that it helps a lot if you have a character that is a bit or a lot a fish out of water and needs to have some stuff explained to them, because then and very organically basically teach the audience alongside with that character. So that can work really, really nicely. And even the way that they are taught about whatever it is that they are a novice in can also work a lot as a character point for, the teacher and the student in this situation, if that makes sense.
Yep.
Oh, it does, and well, I mean, Baines has got those. Like Max is obviously the fish out of water. He's the little person, and at the moment he is in this this giant world trying to navigate his way around. So he would be an obvious candidate for the fish out of water, but he's got these companions who are like meaning his friends, helping him, and they're also fishes out of water because they've got no experience with these authoritarian people who they're going up against anyway. So it's
that's true. Max knows none of this, and but these other giants, they know nothing about the relationship with the small world and the giant world and how that all works. They have no idea. Max is the first small person they've ever seen. So there's so many people who don't know what's going on, so that's definitely handy.
Exactly.
With Verdant as well, you have the witch and you have the knight kind of characters, and they don't really know each other's world, or they might even be opposed or have misconceptions. So that's obviously a great way you can bring out, you can explain to readers what is going on and stuff.
Yeah. And I have you said it all basically. And there are definitely misconceptions on either side about what each other are about and doing. And the general idea is to show how, people have prejudices that are based on half truths. Like not everything is wrong about what they consider about the other side. But either it is out of context or it is out of it is out of a completely different understanding of certain things. Like, for example, one thing I want to show, and I think it will come out naturally as like after I'm done with all this, like this gigantic flashback, that the witches think that, you know, the rigid rules are a way to constrict and restrict people, which it is. But in the same vein, the structure offers a way for people to move beyond the standing on ceremony if they are interested. Like, it can help as well. So there is value in the structure if it is not stifling, just as, you know, the whole laissez-faire thing that the witches have going on can be very disorienting, but also very free for expression. So, you know, and each side focuses on the wrong things about each other.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and having that disagreement, that's a way to bring out all this stuff and show all of that stuff. You have sort of one character who's more on one side, and one character who's kind of more on the other side, maybe. Yeah, it depends on specifically what we're going to learn.
I was going to I was going to say how I do my dialogue when I'm doing a comic. Yeah, so Pinky. And so when I do it, it's like sometimes, you know, I have a couple of different ways I do it. Like, I can script the whole comic and I can be very tight about it. But the way I prefer to work is not to script everything. So I just sort of do a rough script of a page and a rough script of the dialogue within it. And then I'll draw it all up and I'll see, okay, so what dialogue actually fits with these characters? What kind of work does the dialogue have to do now that I've drawn everything out in order to move the story forward, in order to explain what the characters mean and what they want, and you know, any jokes or any humor like that. Probably, you know, there's not very many jokes in Pinky yet, but you know what the characters mean, what they intend, and the needs of the story. And so I'll work out that, and then I will pare it down to the absolute minimum. So instead of having, okay, I'll need like a paragraph in order to explain what this character needs and wants and the needs of the story, I'll shorten that down to a single sentence or even one word. Because that's what you can do, you know, if you pare stuff down well enough, and if you've worked out how you can make your art tell, you know, do a lot of the work, then you can do that. You can pare stuff down. So that's what I prefer to do. Or, you know, like, obviously a dialogue means that you've got the two characters together coming up with, you know, the meaning, or like, you know, the point. And that makes things a lot easier. So if you're only having one character talking, then that means you'll have to have more words, because it's really hard just to have one character expressing all this. But if you're having two characters, then you can have a lot less words, because the meaning is in between the two things as they work together, if you know what I mean. It's like an equation.
Yeah, it's handy to be able to bounce back and forth.
Even just
that's probably usually what I do too. Yeah.
Could even just say, one character says, "You really want to do that?" And the other character says, "Yes." And you might think that's a very simplistic thing, but that's all you need. That, just because you've got those two things, you really want to do that? Question, and also exclamation mark, and the other character says yes. And that could be, you know, yes delivered in a like a fourth row way, yes, or it could be yes delivered in a depressed way, yes, as if I can't do anything else. I have to do it that way. But that's all you need. You don't need like piles and piles of dialogue backwards and forwards. Just because of how those two things work together, that can express everything you need. So that's what I'm trying to mean with that. So you don't even need bouncing off each other. You just need that single collision of those two characters and what they want and what they mean.
Yeah.
And that's all you need.
Yeah.
So that's what
You keep yours pretty spare. Your dialogue is pretty spare.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I like to do. I like to try and whittle it down just to the essentials. It's sort of like a challenge.
The same as you.
Yeah.
Yeah, same as you both said. I like to keep it, as the years go by, I try to keep it, shorten it as much as I can.
It's rewarding. Yeah. Like my initial objective in doing that was just not to cover up the artwork. Because if you have too much text and you've only got limited kind of real estate for a page, you either end up having really tiny text that just, is barely readable in order to fit the whole stuff in. Or, you're sort of going, I don't want to cover up this work. I don't want to cover up that artwork. And so that was my initial kind of impetus behind it. But as the years have gone by, it's just that I've realized the artwork can tell a little of this story. It's not just the way it looks, not just, giving people pretty pictures. It's where I'm telling the story, and the dialogue doesn't have to be so massive in order to do its job. So anyway, that's my perspective on it.
I've had so many times on the other side of things, like I've had so many times where I'm like, oh, what do I do in the background here? Oh, maybe dialogue can cover it.
Wow, that's a very different way.
Like so many times I'll do the visuals last, other than stick figures or just scribbles. Like, oh, dialogue can cover up all this and cover that. Oh, hands are hard to draw. I'll cover that. No,
that's very innovative. That's a good idea.
Yeah.
Hadn't thought of that.
The thing, another thing is that art can make, like you might have covered that while I was trying to salvage my drink from my cat. So stop me if you have already said this. So when you have a scene where it is very dialogue and the characters have to talk a lot. For example, they are in a meeting and they have to talk, or they are basically trying to outwit each other in a room, or something like that. Art can work a lot to make this dialogue engaging rather than, a series like the talking heads. But the talking heads, if you draw them well enough, in a sense, can become very engaging and give a lot of nuance to the dialogue and how they are talking to each other, or how they are approaching the subject, and so on and so forth. So, and I learned that because I have a lot of scenes with talking heads in Without Moonlight, especially, where people just, they are in meetings, war meetings, or they have to talk to each other because, the fight scene is basically dialogue where they fight each other with words, So they need. I needed a lot of talking heads, and making, like, camouflaging it with different angles of the room wouldn't cut it very well, because you want to see how they are emoting, the way they are talking about things. So what I found was that if you draw them close up, it is still a talking head, but it has different angles. It has different zooming in or zooming out of the face, or having them both in the frame when something specific is said. So same time how both of them are reacting, or focus on very subtle stuff that they are reacting with while trying to keep a straight face. All of that makes it, I wouldn't say like an action sequence, but it is very close to it. And it's not a talking heads scene anymore, even though it is still a talking heads scene. That's my 2 cents on that.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a good point. Yeah, I like the idea of doing the close-ups of faces and stuff like that. I think we used that in Key of Dreams. We have the different perspectives on people's faces and things like that, not necessarily always talking head. We go all around the place.
I mean, it's a way of spacing things out, and like that's movie making kind of techniques in a way, right? Like sort of cut to your close up and your reaction shot, and like yeah, that it does a lot to carry you through. Like when you need a lot of text, or even when you want a lot, like you want to say all this stuff.
Yeah, because
yeah, it's great.
Talking heads can be like it's not so hard for readers, but for an artist, it's for a creator, it is a bit of a trial, because you're always worried that you're going to bore the crap out of people when you do them.
Yeah, like the eyes of the readers will get tired or whatever. Yeah.
Exactly, or they might get why doesn't something happen?
Yeah.
These characters are talking. Whereas from the reader's perspective, when you're reading it, you don't really think about that. You don't think, oh God, I'm so bored with these characters talking. But as a creator, you're always thinking, oh, it's been going on too long, I'm worried. I don't want to bore people.
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
And I have to say that anything that goes on for too long makes me, at least me, stress out that way. Like I have this action sequence that has been going on and on and on. There's nothing I can do about it. I have to draw it out. And it takes a lot because I haven't learned how to draw magic yet enough to be comfortable with it and just get it over with. So a lot of it I sort of go back and forth, and it takes a lot of time to puzzle out how to show certain things. But it is an action sequence that I have been drawing for like 3 months now or something, maybe more, I don't know. And I'm thinking like everybody is probably saying, when is this fight going to end? Finish it. And so there's that.
I don't know, you should do a plot twist. Never. It's never going to end. The actual whole story just
goes on and on.
takes place.
I mean,
the whole story is the fight.
the artwork is so good in a way. I wouldn't mind that.
So that's a tricky technique.
It's very, very nice to look at, including the magic effects. Beautiful.
Incredible skeletons and things.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that was fun. Like I really had fun drawing that one. He's going to stick around. So I'm glad you like him.
Awesome.
It is.
On my last page, or one of the most recent pages, it's on Patreon. It'll be on the Duck soon. I'm moving along with Max, and he's finally going to reunite with Minnie. It's been a long time. And I was like, oh yeah, I should remind everybody he loves Minnie. So I have him think in a thought bubble, I love Minnie.
Just be totally out there.
Yeah. I do that a lot with my dialogue lately. I find I didn't do it that way before so much, but now it's like, this character will just say what they want and do it, just so people know what's going on.
Well, that's what you have to do. I mean, we can get like really wanky and really nervous about the idea of, oh, we have to be really clever in this. Oh, my character does this and this, but I really can't be obvious. I can't say, oh, I love this character. I have to do it in some kind of clever way. And you don't have to do it in a clever way, because people do think in very simple ways. And people do understand things and read things in very simple ways as well. So that makes total sense.
I hope so. That's been, I think, a big change in how I do it, because I used to think a lot more about, I have to keep it sort of hidden. And I mean, maybe people would look at my old comics and say, no, you didn't. But at least in my mind, that's what I was doing, like sort of not making it too clear. And characters would say the opposite of what they were thinking. And I love that. But yeah, and they still do, I think, in the new stuff, I hope. But yeah, more often I'm now just saying, I should make it clear to everyone. Max wants to get back to Minnie because he loves her.
Yeah.
So he just thinks, he just literally, that's his thought bubble.
Exactly.
Good. I don't do it on every page.
No.
I'm thinking of the readers who are reading one page at a time.
Yeah.
But I don't do it on every page, so yeah.
But I mean, people do think in straight lines. Not everyone thinks in like, this is what I'm saying, but this is what I'm meaning, and all that kind of stuff. So it is refreshing to have that in a comic where people are just saying what they mean. That's cool.
Yeah. And I'm hoping it makes readers go, it's been since it's been so long, in this particular case, and this applies to other situations too. It's just like, it gets everybody on the same page, kind of, and gets everyone understanding, okay, this is what he's doing, this is why he's doing it, and this is what he's thinking. So, yeah.
Exactly. And
I'm worried about what's going to happen on the next page. That's some dialogue.
You got no idea. Well, I mean, I like another thing about that idea. You say, "Oh, I love Minnie." Certain characters do kind of think in ironic ways, and they're not going to tell you exactly what they mean. They're going to do something else. But certain other characters don't. So that's a good character trait to differentiate Max from one of those people. Because Max is someone who wears his heart on his sleeve.
He is a straight shooter.
Yeah,
he's a straight arrow. Yeah.
And that fits with him. So his dialogue works in that way. It expresses not only what he means, but the kind of character he is when he says it. Whereas, say, another character wouldn't, like, they might be too nervous. Like, what's the name of the large fellow who's helping with the Oslo. I knew it was the name of a bloody place. I was thinking all these names. Denmark or something. Okay, so yeah, it's this character called Oslo. He's a lot more nervous about himself and him. Like, he's not as straightforward because he's shy about things. So he wouldn't say something like that. He'd say it in some other way.
That's true. Yeah.
So dialogue does heavy work by not being like dialogue. It does heavy work by expressing stuff in particular ways.
Yeah, that's true. It's a good point. It's like the character will talk this or that way because they're protecting their tender feelings or whatever. They're afraid of being hurt, so they'll talk a certain way. And a lot of that, we just being alive and knowing ourselves and knowing people, a lot of that can happen naturally as you're writing a comic. So, great.
Exactly. Like the way someone talks expresses what they are.
Mm-hmm.
And I would even say that how much a character talks is also indicative. Like, you could have the stoic character that generally avoids talking or doesn't talk. And And so when they do make a statement, it is a lot more impactful just because they are externalizing what they're thinking.
Yeah.
And when you have a character like that, that basically keeps their thoughts to themselves a lot, art is what is going to give the audience hints about where they stand, like with their expression, with their body language, with how they react to certain things when they are not actually talking.
Yeah.
And thus explaining what they think. So that's another way to have art and dialogue with that, like the absence of the dialogue with the presence of the art. And then when suddenly they do say something, it's a lot more impactful.
Definitely. Yeah.
True.
And of course, you can have a nice contrast with the chatterbox character and the stoic monosyllabic character.
Exactly, yeah.
That's done a lot. It
I love
works
that.
pretty well. Love it. Yeah.
Especially if they are like a wandering duo or something, and you have the stoic character that doesn't talk, and and the other character that is a chatterbox and talks a lot. So and they just interact seamlessly, even though one talks and the other doesn't. I really love that kind of chemistry.
Yeah. That's great.
It does. It's clever in that way. It's very clever, and as a writer, you don't have to like intellectualize and do this stuff by, okay, so this happens this way, so I should do that way, because a lot of this stuff you would be able to intuitively do.
Yeah.
Because you can just understand.
Yeah, it comes from being alive and having family and friends. And also from watching movies and TV, so much of it. Like you get these dynamics are on tap for us. I think we can use them.
We can often all we as a creator do, we write it out and then we go back and we refine it and fix it afterwards. So we're just tightening it. We're using our intellect in order to tighten what we mean, rather than construct the whole thing from scratch. Because we've been doing it for so long that we do have a little bit of ability there.
Yeah. I think we're getting low on time here, if I'm not wrong.
We've got 4 minutes left, guys. No, 3 minutes left. If that. We're wrapping up. 3 minutes. So.
And yet we still have so much to say.
In a dialogue with each other.
Yeah.
We've all become so much like each other that we basically just have one big monologue, which are just three flavors of the same voice. You never say trialogue, do you? Or polylogue or something. It's just...
No, I say travelogue.
Travelogue. Oh dear. It's one of those weird things that are brought into English from Latin and Greek, and we just use it in our own way. Right then, guys. This has been Quackcast number 754. Thank you very much for listening to our Quackcast, and I hope you will become next week. So next week we're talking about endings based on Tansereen's news post about stuff where, someone's written something, or made a movie and it's sort of open-ended and other people want them to finish it so they can be satisfied. Some audience goes, oh, we need you to finish it. You must finish it. And the writer goes, or the creator goes, oh, well, I just have to get around to it. Sorry. But the audience is so invested in it that they need it to happen regardless. And I don't know, when other people take over stuff in order to do that, it changes the character a bit. I'm never as invested.
I would even say that it changes the character a lot, because the way There's a reason. Oh, we're gonna say that next time.
Okay. Thanks very much, people. Bye-bye for me.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Bye.
Bye.